Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you with X-Men Legends #1. I'm going to be honest with you. When I picked this up at my local comic shop the other day, and I thought I would just give it a chance. And I'll be honest with you, after I sat there and read it, I got a little misty-eyed. I was excited to finally find an X-Men book that was non-Krakoa. And it came out February, this #1 came out February 2021, or at least that's what the print date was on it. And I was like, no way. And then we'll get into the credits here in a second, but I open it up and it just says, Marvel Comics proudly presents a story nearly 30 years in the making. And we get the burning blood. Now, before we dive into this, what really got me amped initially was seeing Eric the Red here on the cover with all his little Shi'ar minions. But this is, and what even got me more excited is it's Fabian Nicieza writing, Brett Booth penciler, Adolfo Corona inker, Guru EFX colorist, VC's Joe Caramanga lettering, and then here's everyone else working on the book. And then what really got me amped, it says, editor's note, this story takes place after X-Men #39 from 1991. Now, finally get to delve into some good storytelling. There are some points that I was just kind of, but overall it feels like Nicieza has not missed a beat. Because if you remember, he wrote the early parts of the 91 X-Men. He did X-Force along with Rob Liefeld. And, he's kind of on and off wrote X-Books. Some of the more memorable ones I remember from like 95 was Age of Apocalypse. And it felt like I was back in that moment from when I first picked up an X-Men book when I was like 8 or 9, because I started out with Batman and Swamp Thing, and it was a couple of years later that I finally discovered the X-Men. Now, since Claremont's kind of, moved on, I can't think of anyone better. I think that if like Nicieza had passed up, I think the only other person writing I probably would have been okay with would have been, oh God, I just lost Scott Liddell. There it is. I was about to forget. But having Nicieza back, and just seeing action. We open up with stakes of all these Shi'ar cultists just screaming, by the light of Imkron, and they're just attacking everybody. And they end up abducting two, in the grand scheme of things, you would think would not be important characters, but it's enough to move, to start pushing Havoc and Cyclops. Now, forewarning, this book focuses on the Summers family, or at least issue 1 does so far. And I'm okay with that. Just seeing Cyclops and Havoc together beating these cultists, just seeing their powers working like this. And I love Havoc. He's back to just kind of, he's still that reluctant leader, but I loved Havoc because he's always had this attitude. Like Scott's always more stoic and stern because that's how he was trained under Xavier. But Havoc, not so much, because he grew up with the family when he was adopted out of the orphanage, and it took Scott forever to find Alex again. So he's like, so little brother, want to get some fresh air, for a workout? Sure, Scott, that'll make for a nice change of pace from a training routine in the danger room. And Scott, focus, Alex. They're Shi'ar. They have to be stalking the mansion. And there's like hundreds of them. And so I like how Scott says, I want to avoid damaging the wildlife, but they don't have a choice. And you just see the Summers brothers' powers just go on full display here. Now, another thing that I got excited about too, very Claremont-esque, is when we're introduced, Westchester, near the mansion of Charles Xavier, Cyclops, generates optic blasts of pure concussive force, not heat. Havoc channels ambient cosmic energy into a plasma discharge. There's no, Havoc, he's so moody compared to his brother, tee-hee-hee, LOL, so random. None of that crud that slows down or derives from the plot. This feels like we're diving back into those 90s books. Now, when I kind of watched the promo for this, it was a little hokey because it's like, oh, get ready to strap on your pouches, blah, blah, like all the old tropes of the 90s. And yes, there were some bad tropes, but it also had some good freaking writing. I mean, when Claremont left, everyone was like, oh crap, what are we going to do? But we had Nikezia take up on X-Men for a while, Scott Liddell. We had Peter David on X-Factor. We had Nikezia on X-Force along with Rob Liefeld. And those books took off like gangbusters. Even Generation X, Scott Liddell started doing X-Men, or Uncanny X-Men started doing Generation X. And he had his finger on the whole line. Like, he really carried the X books. So that's why I said if Nikezia had said no to this, I really think Scott Liddell would have been the next logical choice. Or hell, even Larry Hama with his, is it tenure? I don't remember how long he was on Wolverine, but I think Larry Hama could have handled this as well. But just having Nikezia back, that's exciting. So again, I know I kind of digressed there for a moment, but I just want to talk about how important this book felt to me in 2021. After seeing the X-Men as these separatists that just seem to hate everybody on Krakoa, to come back and finally start seeing the heart of what the X-Men are, it just struck a nerve with me. Not just nostalgic, but just storytelling and what the X-Men are supposed to be about, helping anybody and everybody, not shutting themselves off and not caring about what other people think. That's not the X-Men. That's not what the X-Men stood for. So anyway, as I talked about, there's two key characters that you'd never really think about that get abducted by the Shi'ar. And so because this becomes sort of a cosmic ransom. And we get to see old places like Anchorage, Alaska, where Maddie and Cyclops moved to after they got married and had Nathan. And that's kind of where the book goes. And then we're reintroduced to a character that a lot of people haven't really thought about. Now listen to the way he's introduced. Listen to the way this is written. This was excellent. We get this beautifully colored page of just all this destruction happening. And then Havoc and Cyclops are trying to figure out who this Forsaken one is, and that's what we segue into here, where it says, how can someone remember from before? They should remember, but know so little now. There was fire. I felt myself boiling. There was salvation. Hands hardened by a life of hitting softly protected me. I was given a name that was neither Shi'ar or Mephistoid. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, guys, sorry. I never asked why. I never asked what other secrets I left behind. I was told my past would be an unwanted burden. That hit a very good emotional resonance. So spoilers, if you guys have not read this and you don't want to be spoiled, please pause the review here, go get the book, and come back. This character is Adam X. And he when he was adopted from his alien family, his mutant powers manifested. And he talks about how everyone looked at him differently, even though he was part of this tribe. So he said it was inevitable that I'd have to go to Earth and find answers. And that's where we end up in Iowa. And there's this great moment with Cable, and he's just rocking that awesome old look. And this is back when he was hardened, when he just kind of came to the past and he was still militarizing the New Mutants and created X-Force. And he's still trying to learn. And I guess there's like some, at this point, like I said, I'm not that far along in X-Force in terms of the original arc, but there's some bad blood between him and Adam here. And I like how Cable says, I can share information with the X-Men. See? We can grow. And that's something that Nathan would say, because Cable has to learn to sort of soften up from all these years being in the future, trying to protect the Ascani and the tribe Ascani or whatever it's called. Just excellent. It's on point, guys, and the artwork is just absolutely beautiful. I don't feel like it's phoned in. I feel like Brett Booth really cares about this. And we get a awesome battle with the Starjammers with Adam X. And then what I really like is there's a moment between Havoc and Cyclops and Adam. And Adam's like, how are you blocking my powers? And so Cyclops and Havoc try to take him out, and he goes, was that supposed to hurt? So if you guys remember about mutant siblings, that might give you an inkling if you've never read the old X-Men books. But it all kind of comes to fruition when Corsair comes on the scene. I don't want to give too much away. I wanted to get you guys excited about this book. It was just nice to step back into what the X-Men were, or at least initially what the X-Men were to me and how I perceived them initially, and how from that initial encounter and just moving forward through the years, knew what the X-Men stood for, what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby originally tried to do, what Claremont later took, and him and Lynn Wein doing Giant Size X-Men, and how they expounded on that, and just the cluster fudge of what the books are now. So if you want something, if you're sick of the Krakoa Dawn of X line like I am, this book is for you. I highly recommend it, guys. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And also, if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell next to subscribe, that way as we can continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below, or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.